you ever feel like your church is just completely stuck? Like there is no path forward? That no matter how hard you try, no matter who comes through, no matter what's going on, there just does not seem to be any way to move ahead. Well, this video is going to talk about why that's the case. This is why your church is stuck. It's just one simple word.
There's a principle from physiology and biology that also applies not only to living organisms, but living organizations. It's the term homeostasis. It means to be in the same state. Our temperature is regulated by our body to be in the same state. So many of our natural biochemistry within our bodies kind of self-regulate to kind of keep things within a range or keep things in check, from your blood oxygen level to just your blood sugar level, just all these different levels. Your body works very hard to keep things in a very consistent state. Homeostasis. Now, that same state that applies to your biology, that applies to keeping you alive, that applies to keeping you in a very consistent state, not only, again, applies to living beings, living organisms, human beings and animals, it also applies to living organizations, not just living organisms. So it applies to churches. It applies to the way that churches operate. It applies to leadership structures. It applies to ministers and their responsibilities, that there is so much effort exerted to keep things as they are, that when something comes from the outside, it's seen as foreign to the system, and it's seen as a challenge to the system, and then the autoimmune response begins to attack this intruder because it's going to operate this new thing that's coming into the mix. It's going to change the way things are. And the body, the living organisms, are designed to maintain consistency so that they don't die. And organizations operate in the very same way. They are designed and developed to maintain consistency to ensure their survival. Now, the problem would be like having an autoimmune disorder where your body begins to attack itself. It actually begins to attack things that are healthy. And this also happens in organizations where homeostasis can actually work against the health of the organization. It can actually work against the health of the congregation, so that something new is introduced that actually will make the church body healthier, but the autoimmune response is to attack that new entity, that new thing, that new idea, that new movement. And that's really good in terms of like heresy prevention, but it's really not the greatest when it comes to introducing healthy things to unhealthy organisms and organizations, right? So you think about even your own body, when you begin to eat healthier or you begin to exercise more, and you haven't done that, and say you're morbidly obese, and now your knees begin to hurt and all these things begin to hurt that we're not hurting, your body says, hey, slow down, don't continue to do this. It begins to self-protect. We take away the protective processes that are keeping things healthy. So this can kind of work both ways. Homeostasis can be good. It can be like heresy prevention, that we have kind of consistent doctrine over time and consistent doctrine with the scriptures. That can be a good thing. But homeostasis can also be a harmful thing, because if the organism, if the organization is unhealthy, or if there's like an autoimmune unhealthiness or disorder that's attacking healthiness, right? It's like rheumatoid arthritis or things. I'm no medical expert, but this is just my own base understanding, just as examples. You know, when the body begins to attack itself and those things which were designed as protective mechanisms begin undoing the health of the very organism that they were designed to protect, then they become a challenge to the future of the organism and or the future of the organization, right? And the things that were intended to be protective become destructive. So one of the things that is holding church back is homeostasis. Now, the church needs to be held back in certain areas. Do not advance too far beyond certain doctrines. Do not, get into false teachings and heretical things and all this sort of things that can be self-protective and self-preserving and self-sustaining over time, that we maintain a consistent bedrock foundation, and that's very, very important. Just like our immune system is very important to keep our body stable and to keep it healthy and free of the kind of anxiety that is elicited within an organization or an organism when something new is introduced, and then people begin becoming upset, even if that good thing is the solution. even if that good thing is the very thing that will ensure that the congregation will make it another 50 years, it can very often be rejected in the name of keeping things in a homeostatic state. We need to have a healthy autoimmune response to heresies and false teachings and things like that, while also recognizing that just because something is new doesn't mean it's heretical. Sometimes something that is new is actually something that is old that we've forgotten about, like making disciples. It's a very old practice. It's an ancient practice. It's a biblical practice, but very few churches do it. Discipleship.org and Exponential ran a study on disciple-making churches in the United States, surveyed, it's well over 1,000 different congregations through random sampling, and found that there are basically almost no disciple-making churches in North America. Truly at their core, it's not that no churches are making disciples, but in the core DNA, through some strict criteria, which one can argue with, it's not really happening on a grand scale for the most part. It's a very ancient practice. It's not heretical to make disciples. It's just kind of gotten out of vogue until the last few years, and now, fortunately, it's starting to make a comeback. But some of our churches will resist that because it's something new, or it didn't go well in the past, or all these other reasons that keep the organization from turning a page to healthiness, because we're trying to maintain consistency, consistent ministries, consistent approaches. This is why, and this is getting very dated now, but some churches did not want to make a turn to small group ministry because we have to all be together. Well, that's tradition that you all have to be together. When everyone leaves on Sunday, you're not all together, but many of you have lunch together or go into each other's homes anyway. It's a control mechanism. The very kind of control mechanism that attempts to keep the church body intact can be the very thing, like a lupus or like a rheumatoid arthritis or like various autoimmune dysfunctions, that actually bring harm to the body in the name of doing good to the body. By trying to be consistent, we can sometimes weed out the very things that we need to bring healing to our church family. So we need to really be in tune with our body, and sometimes leadership is not in tune with the body. And so where the leadership is trying to keep the church and maintain consistency is no longer aligned with where the church body is at, because the leadership is out of tune or out of touch with the broader church body, and so they're leading a group that no longer really exists. The congregation, the body, has changed out from under them, but they are not in touch enough to understand the shifts that have taken place. Homeostasis is a very important principle to understand, and it's not monolithic. It's not just that homeostasis is good or homeostasis is bad. Homeostasis just is. If it's regulating your body temperature at 98 degrees, that's good homeostasis, But if it's also keeping things from you that would make you healthier, then that's bad homeostasis, right? Just like our autoimmune system is good when it's working properly and functioning in a healthy way, but our autoimmune system can also kill us, right? If it kind of gets off on the wrong track. These are some principles of biology, of physiology, of biochemistry that can really help us understand how we and how we don't regulate the church family and the church body to be put in the healthiest position possible, and to understand that not all things that come along that challenge the system are unhealthy things. We think about vaccinations and how you're introducing something foreign to the body that the body thinks is detrimental to the body. So the body learns how to attack that so that it can then later attack the real thing when it comes along, or a live version of that same thing when it comes along, like the flu. These are principles that are very important as a church leader, for you church leaders to understand how your church family operates and what sort of things that you're looking to regulate and what sort of things that you should not be looking to regulate. I hope and pray that this is beneficial to all of you watching or listening to this, and that it helps you understand some of the ways that things work within your church family and how decisions are made or not made, and why things keep seeming stuck. They keep seeming stuck because homeostasis is like gravity. It just kind of wants to pull things to the center and hold things tight so that nothing gets too out of alignment. And we could spend probably another 30 minutes to an hour talking about enmeshment, self-differentiation, and emotional maturity. Love you. Thank you for watching, and tune in for the next video. There's a couple videos that are popping up on your screen that we recommend you kind of following along and just watch another one, because there's a wealth of information here on the channel that is all designed to bless you, to encourage you, to challenge you, to stretch you. And I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, if it's helpful to you. Maybe you don't like what you're hearing. Maybe that's why you need to subscribe, because you don't like what you're hearing. That may be the perfect reason to follow along. So anyway, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.